Andramoi enepemusa politropon hos mala pola plantichte, epeitroies hieron tolietron eperse, polon dantropon iden astia kaino.
Yes, thanks a bunch, Mr. Homer and Kalimera Internet. We'll just abbreviate the pretty verses of our blind friend a bit, not because he's blind, but because otherwise it would take a little long. A warm welcome to Odyssey to go. Today's cast are Ulysses. In his 40s, king of Ithaca, but hasn't been at home for 20 years, where his wife Penelope waits for him. First he was in the Trojan War, then he was chased around the Mediterranean by Poseidon, which is what happens if you go out to buy a pack of cigarettes. Therefore he hasn't seen his son Telemachos as a grown-up, who hasn't had much success in keeping the many suitors of his mother, among them Antinoos and Eurymachos. Those suitors are after Penelope because her husband is a long way away, and after all, one might become king of Ithaca with her as a wife. Fortunately, the goddess Athena has discovered Ulysses as a hobby not so long ago, and is now setting the course for his return. During his journey, Ulysses meets an incredible number of guys, gods, monsters, servants, far more than we could introduce now. The Odyssey consists of 12,110 hexameter verses in 24 books, which is to say it reads as easy as the Daily Mail, and here we go. On Mount Olympus, Daddy Zeus is just about to down his well-deserved nectar nightcap when his teenage daughter Athena bursts in and goes, "Daddy, Daddy!" He goes, "Yeah? This Ulysses has been staying in the love grotto of the nymph Calypso for 7 years. He's got to go home now or he'll go nymphomaniac." "Yeah, okay, but if you want to have a pet, you're responsible for it." "Yes." Promptly, she appears to Telemachos at home in Ithaca, in disguise, of course, and says, "Listen, laddie, you are going to search for Daddy now and chuck out Mummy's suitors. Copy? Okay." And he turns around to the suitors and goes, "Here, you leave my mother alone now and give me a ship so I'll be able to look for my father, okay?" To the which they reply, "No," and leave. But Athena comes back and goes, "Don't be sad, here's a boat for you. Get in, and first of all, we'll go to Pylos." So he sits down in the boat, and they go to Pylos together, where old Nestor is waiting for him. And Telemachos goes out of the boat and says, "Hello, Nestor." "Hello, Telemachos. You know where my daddy is?" "No, I don't, but why don't you ask King Menelaus in Sparta? My son can give you a ride." And the son drives in, Telemachos gets on the carriage, and they rush with incredible 15 miles per hour across the Peloponnese to Sparta. Here, King Menelaus resides and receives him in a very friendly way. "Hello, Menelaus." Hello, Telemachos. "You know where my daddy is?" "I don't have a clue, but haven't you become a big boy? Why don't you come in?" And he goes, "Oh, you have exactly the same wallpaper as we do in Ithaca." At which point we leave the son and meet the father, who has been on duty in the nymph's grotto for 7 years. One more time! No, I'm really knackered." When a guy with wings on his shoes steps in. "Hello, I'm Hermes, the messenger of the gods." "Yes? You're to let Ulysses go immediately." "Oh no!" And he goes, "Thank goodness." So Ulysses is really glad and builds himself a raft. With the help of this raft, he leaves Calypso's island, but as soon as he's on the water, Poseidon, the old wet blanket, starts a really hefty storm, which causes Ulysses to shipwreck, and more dead than alive, reach the island of Scheria. As it happens, the daughter of the island's king, Nausicaa, is playing on the beach with her friend. "You catch like a girl." "Oops, who are you?" "Oops, yeah, I'm a stranger." "Great, why don't you come along to Daddy?" And she takes him into town to meet her father. "Hello, King." "Hello, well, who are you?" A noble stranger." "Wow, that's great. Do you want to marry my daughter?" And she's getting quite nervous in the back, but he goes, "Yeah, no, I want to go home." "Ah, shit, I'm Ulysses." "No." "Yes, can I borrow a ship?" "Okay, but only if you tell us the story of your wanderings at dinner." "Okay." So after dinner, he starts. When we had beaten the Trojans, we set out for home. In order to relax a little, we pillaged Ismaros on the way. Help! Ha ha ha! After that, we meet the Lotus Eaters. Peace! And that was really a stark experience. 3 of my people tried that shit and were on cold turkey for days afterwards. Then it came. A nice island. Sheep, goats, a huge cavern, which I entered with my guys. In there we found milk, cheese, and had hardly borrowed any supplies when all of a sudden Polyphemus, the Cyclops, entered. The one-eyed giant. He closes the door, sits down, and makes a snack of 2 of my people. Wah! "Ah, munch, munch, a giant man-eater, terrible." When he snatched the next 2, I said, "Here, why don't you take a sip of wine for digestion?" And he takes the wine bottle from me, and with a giant gulp he empties it and bonk, goes to sleep. In the corner of his cavern he had kept his club, so we made the club glow red hot in the fire and blinded him with it a little. And he goes, "Wow, who was that?" And I said, "No one." "No one, you wait till I get hold of you." But we just clung to the fleece of his sheep, which he had to let go of out of his cavern, and what do you know, we were afloat again. With a couple of guys less, of course. Unfortunately, Polyphemus was a son of Poseidon's, who cursed us after this, which is why we had a lot of trouble, you know, but worse things happen at sea. Next we stepped ashore on the island of Aiolos, the god of winds. He received us in a very friendly manner, and as a parting gift he said, "Look, in this skin I've locked up all the bad winds. You just have the good one left that will take you to Ithaca, that's still at large." And I said, "Thank you. That's really nice." And he said, "Don't mention it." And we go home, and Ithaca is already in sight when I get really tired and take a nap, and my people go all of a sudden, "Here, what's in this wineskin? He's hiding some black money from us, I bet you. Come on, let's have a look." And they open the wineskin, and woo, we are taken back to Aiolos Island in the Gamma Quadrant. And I go, "Aiolos, this is really embarrassing, but my people piss off." And as a punishment for bad behavior, 11 of my ships, including crews, were munched by the man-eating Lestrygonians afterwards. So we got onto the sea once more, and, who would have thought it, arrived at a new island. It looked quite nice, but before I turned around twice, I suddenly heard pigs oinking. Hermes pops up. "Look, Ulysses, take these flowers. This herb is an antidote against the sorceress who has turned your pals into pigs." And I have hardly taken the flowers from him when Circe appears, ready to draw her wand. But I pop, "Hiya, this is an antidote." And she goes, "Oh. And now you immediately turn my pigs back into pals." And she goes, "Flick, oink, oink, what's happened to me?" But after that she was really nice and told us, "Now, if you want to go home, you first have to go to Hades and consult Tiresias." So we went to Hades, which is really no distance today, is it? And because that was the second bit of advice Circe gave to us, I spilled some wine in a hole in the ground. That is to say, I carefully prepared a libation. Then I stood above it, for I had hardly put down the bottle when they came. "Wine, wine, Walking Dead, really scary. Wine, we want wine." And I say, "No, ye shall not pass. I want to talk to Tiresias." When I heard a voice from the back, "Coming, I'm here." And he pushes forward. "Oh, wine, that's great." And lap, 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 sips the wine and goes, "Here, you want to go home, don't ya?" "Yeah." "Then watch out that you guys don't eat the oxen of the sun. See you around." And we were already leaving when a voice from the back goes, "Ulysses? Oh, Mum, that's really nice. Sorry, got to run." And we jumped into the boat and left the shores of Hades. Then, however, we dropped into Circe's place once more, because we needed to bury one of our guys, and she told us what sea challenges we were to face next. What's that? Ah, sirens, got it. "Everyone take their earplugs, put it in, and tie me to the mast." And I had hardly said it when the rock of the sirens came into view. And they go, "Ulysses, drop your anchor in our port, sailor." And I go, "Oh no, cut me loose." But my pals hard-heartedly just rode on. "Give me your mobile numbers at least." But the next challenge was already awaiting. "Right, Ulysses, now you have to decide whether to go for the all-devouring Maelstrom of Charybdis or the man-eating monster Scylla, which will only devour 6 of your men." So we arrive between those two disasters, and I go, Charybdis, Scylla. No, Charybdis. Wait, Scylla! And the monster snatches my people, and I go, whoa, lucky once again, weren't we? Because we had sailed through between the two of them and arrived at the island of the sun god, where the oxen of the sun, those would be the oxen of the sun now, were already lined up in the sun, and I go, "Okay guys, listen, we'll take a 5-minute break, I'll take a nap, and nobody is to touch those oxen, right?" So I lie down. But my dear and reliable pals go, "Ah, he's exaggerating once again, let's do spare ribs." So they kill 1 or 2 of the oxen and have a little barbecue. Moo! See, nothing happens. Then we set out again, went into the boat, but we had hardly reached the open sea when a giant tempest started and Poseidon shipwrecked us, drowned all my fellows. I, the only one, survived. And this is how I came to Calypso and afterwards to you, people of Scheria. And King Alkinoos is very impressed by this story. "This is so awesome. We'll have a little collection for needy sailors, and afterwards we'll take you home." "Yippee, this is good news." And he's put into a boat and rowed home with a handsome amount of money. And as he is just sleeping when they arrive at Ithaca, they put him down on the beach and the boat goes back to Scheria. And because they've taken Ulysses home, Poseidon conjures up a mountain range with barbed wire around their island, which is really bad for a seafaring nation, which is what happens if you help refugees. Then Athene appears again to him. "Get up! Where am I?" "Well, you're at home at last. Clear the money away, then you put on some disguise and go to your pig farm in the country." Okay. So, in a very cunning disguise, he walks to his farm, where Eumaeus, his friendly swineherd, receives him well. "Hi, beggar, come in, sit down, take a biscuit." "Thanks. How's life?" "Ah, like shit, without a king and cheeky and greedy suitors." "Oh, look, there's Telemachus coming." The goddess had ordered him home too. And when Telemachus and Ulysses are alone, Ulysses goes, "Look, lady, I'm your father." And he goes, "No, yeah. Cool, then we'll finally check out those suitors. I got a plan. Listen." Psst, psst, psst. On the next morning, they go to Ulysses' house, where the suitors are sitting and feasting as usual. Ulysses begs them for food, but friendly Antinous throws a stool at him. And they all laugh at him, but he makes a mental note of this. Suddenly he hears a sniff, sniff, woof, woof, sniff, sniff, and he goes, "Oh, shut up, will you?" His old dog, more than 20 years old, has recognized him. Wah! And gets a heart attack because he's so happy. Then another beggar enters and goes, "This is my turf, comrade, I'm begging here," and they get into a fight in which Ulysses breaks his colleague's jaw in a friendly way. Ow! After this he talks to Penelope. "Yeah, Ulysses is on his way home." And she goes, "No, really, come and wash him." And the old nurse comes in and washes his feet and legs and recognizes a big scar he has and goes, "You're Ulysses?" And he goes, "You shut up at once or I'll give you something to shout over." Okay. And Penelope comes in and says, "Tomorrow I'll decide between the suitors by a sports competition." The suitors once more disgrace themselves thoroughly, and on the next morning a board is set up on which 12 axe heads are fastened. And Penelope comes in and says, "Right, dear suitors, the competition goes like this. He who can string Ulysses' bow and shoot an arrow through this dozen axe heads will receive my hand in marriage, and the rest of me too." And they go, "Piece of cake, hand over the bow." And they take the bow and snatch. Ow! Everyone hurts themselves with the bowstring because they are not able to perform this task. Ulysses, still disguised as a beggar, takes his bow, strings it with a flowing movement, and swish, he shoots through the axe heads. And while the suitors are still wondering, "That's impossible," they swish, are shot down, and bang, 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 Ulysses massacres them all. Afterwards, Telemachus also executes the collaborators among the servants. After this bloodbath, Ulysses cleans himself a little and goes to meet his wife and says, "Hello, Penny, here I am." And she goes, "No, is it really you? I'll tell the servants at once to get our bed out of the sleeping room in order to clean it." "You want to take the piss? I carved our marriage bed out of a living olive tree." "It was only a test, darling." And she sinks into his arms, and they spend a night together in which Athena generously stopped the course of time because they haven't seen each other in such a long time and so excessively talk. In the morning, a couple of relatives of the dead suitors are murdered in order to avoid a vendetta, and that being done, Ulysses reigns supreme over Ithaca again. It's 36 degrees in the shadow, water temperature 23 degrees, and this, dear congregation, was Homer's Odyssey.
Vielen Dank.